Hello, and welcome back to another one of these Amazon advertising Ask Me Anything Q&A sessions. So I appreciate anyone joining us today. So we're going to do another round of this. And by the way, these two things on these is... these are recorded and they go up on our YouTube channel. So if you ever want to catch a replay of any of those, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. And then the second thing is that I'm doing them every Thursday. So if you have an Amazon ad question and you want to make sure that it gets answered, highly suggest that you join us on Thursdays. So I appreciate all of you who are joining in. So if anyone has any questions, for those of you who haven't joined this format before, the way that it works is if you have an Amazon advertising question, feel free to type it in the chat. And if we get any questions this session, normally it's pretty lively in here, but if we get any questions, I'll make sure to pop them up on screen and we will go ahead and get those questions answered for you. Fun updates to Amazon. Seems like they're always improving their AI or UI, excuse me. They have some cool stuff going on with AI as well when it comes to creating sponsored brand custom images, which that has been an interesting update. It's a little bit like anything, I think in a lot of the AI rollouts, slightly clunky, but if you really just need to sort of get up something or you want to take a spin on it, that's a pretty awesome option. Other cool things that they just rolled out is save filters inside of the targeting tab. That's a fun one. So those of you who are constantly using the targeting tab to find things, I am certain you're going to be really excited about that. Do expect a video to come out hopefully in the next couple weeks on some filters that we actually recommend. So kind of an update on where that is. I would go in and recommend just going in and exploring the targeting tab for yourself. You should be able to come across it, and it's pretty intuitive as to how to set it up. But I thought it'd be a fun idea to get in a bunch of a couple filters that you might not have thought about using as sort of your default. So cool. Awesome. Looks like we have our first question. So yeah, anyone joining in, feel free to pop a question in the chat. I'll bring it up on screen. We'll get those questions answered for you. Specifically things around Amazon advertising, which this question is. So the question is, hello, what is the perfect structure for the ad? Broad to exact, when should we push to exact, and how many keywords in a campaign? What would be the bidding strategy? Cool. So we got a couple different levels right here. So the perfect structure, the thing I want to say is there honestly is no perfect structure because you're always testing and you're always adjusting based on those tests. For our launch strategy, and this is something that I've been getting questions on a lot. So actually I'd love to hear from anyone. Feel free to type it in the chat if you would be interested in a cohesive, specifically like Amazon advertising launch strategy, soup to nuts, beginning to end, keyword research to probably a couple weeks into the optimizations. If anyone's interested in that, let me know, because we're toying with, putting a lot of energy into developing that and putting it out to everyone, so you guys can get better launches. But we prefer to start with exact match. And jumping down to your part of your question where you said the bidding strategy, we would start with fixed bids. The reason why is that fixed bids is typically going to help you get the best impressions on your ads. And in the beginning, impressions are key because you're looking to get that visibility on the platform. And so we jump to fixed bids. So when should we push into exact? Actually, I would start the opposite way. I'm a huge believer. I just had a post out on LinkedIn today, so maybe go check it out on our methods for keyword research strategies. You want to dig really deep into that keyword research. One, you're just going to obviously get a really good list of keywords, but the second thing you're actually going to find if you do intensive keyword research is how the shopper market is referring to your products. And that's going to be really insightful, so you can get a really good gauge of, again, what are shoppers using to refer to your products. If you do intense keyword research, you will find that out very quickly, especially as you get really good at it. So I would say start with exact, then move to potentially broaden phrase. If you launch exact match, you keep pushing bids, you can't get any traction in exact match, I might add in phrase match, just because that can give you some level of control over where your ad spend is going, while still sometimes those are easier to get impressions on. And then we would move up into, broads, autos, etc. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to type them in the chat as well. This was a great question. So, hey, Elizabeth, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Hopefully you're doing great as well. So can you please give me an overview about close match and loose match? When we have low daily budgets, what should we do? Just keep your bids low. That's what I would say, is keep your bids low. If you have low daily budgets, you could just launch one auto campaign. So there's a couple ways to do that. Some people will launch, actually there's 3 ways that I've heard about doing this. One is just launch a single auto campaign, right? And you keep bids on all the different targeting. The second way that you can do it, sometimes people will group out close match, loose match, and then substitutes and complements into like 2 separate autos, and then they'll do that way. A third way I've heard people do it is launching 4 different autos, one for close match, one for loose match, substitutes, and complements. I would say if you have low budgets, I would only launch 1 auto. Good rule of thumb is the more campaigns you have, the higher your ad budget is going to need to be to run those campaigns. So while it's often good for like strategic ad spend control to create separate campaigns, the ad spend potential of that is going to be a lot higher. So in your case, I would say only launch only launch 1 auto campaign, and then 2, keep your bids low and work up from there. And if you're doing autos, also make sure you're checking negatives, checking search terms for potential negatives constantly, because that will also help with not wasting ad spend. Cool. All right, we got another question on launch. So it sounds like we are having a lot of questions around product launch strategy. I get it, right? The strategy on launch has really shifted over the years. And Mike has a really great question. After doing keyword research for a new product, should we be adding the search terms in the campaigns as a broad and phrase match? And does the search term need to be in my listing? I will say I'm not the foremost expert on listing optimization. However, I do know that having the keywords in your listing does help with indexation, which can help with getting impressions and from an ads perspective. So it's not a bad idea to have it in your campaign, or in your listings. Should you be adding the search terms in the campaign as a broad and phrase match? So here's the 2 schools of thought, right? Old school method, before keyword research, and really good tools out there where we can get a really good pulse on what's going on with our audience. We used to start with auto campaigns, right? And then people would move them to broad match, and then maybe go into phrase match. And start working down more to the exact, like exact being sort of like, quote, the ultimate form of a keyword, I guess. I don't know. So we, in general, after the product launch cycle, and when I say product launch cycle, typically about 2 to 3 weeks, typically. What we'll do is we have an all of the above strategy. So I don't believe in only going into exact match. I don't believe in only going to broad match. I have audited enough accounts that I've seen any account that goes to one extreme or the other always has problems. So I like using launching the same keyword in all 3 match types. That being said, if you're in a product launch, being able to be very strategic with where you're putting your ad spend and where you're allocating those ad dollars is going to be very helpful in terms of making sure your budget goes as far as it possibly can. So I would say, if at all possible, start an exact match. Again, potentially phrase match if you're struggling to get impressions on exact match. Use fixed bids, run that strategy for a week or 2 just to like really push out the products into the specific section of the market that you've identified. Again, doing that intensive keyword research. And then from there, I would take those same keywords and start layering in, auto campaigns, a little bit broad match campaigns with the same targets. So hopefully that was helpful. This is a really good question from Jared, which by the way, keep them coming, guys. I've got an Amazon ad question and you're joining in, feel free to type it in the chat. And for those of you who've already asked a question, if you have a clarifying question you want me to touch on, feel free to pop another one in the chat. But Jared asks, if you have a catalog with extremely similar items where relevant keywords are nearly identical amongst them, how do you make sure they get their fair share of visibility, especially in the top keywords? That's a great question. That's a really great question. So my thing would be, it would depend on if they're on the same listing. So same listing, same parent ASIN, or if they are on separate listings. So just to okay, I'm back. Apologies. I'm not sure if anyone can still see me or if this is, let me see. Looks like, okay. Can anyone still see me or are we still? Yes. Okay, we're back. Okay. I have no idea what happened. My entire computer froze. I had literally had to restart everything, and somehow coming out of this did not end the live. So thankfully I was able to rejoin the stream. That was super weird. Awesome. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. And Jared, you had, all right, so Jared's question is still on the screen, hopefully. Hopefully I can take it down because it just froze up there. But anyway, so, and Jared also had a follow-up thing saying that they were on separate listings. So with separate listings, you will be able to get one ad spot and one organic spot. That was my question around if there are variations or not, because if there are variations, only one of the variations is eligible to show. So the first thing I will say about having the same keywords is that you're not going to compete against yourself in terms of bids. meaning you're not going to drive up your own bid, providing you're advertising within the same login. Now, if you have like a brand and you have two separate logins because you have different accounts for each brand, you'll actually will compete against yourself in those cases. So I've gotten questions from brands. I'm like, oh, should I consolidate within one account? Like pros and cons to each, but just know that like that's actually kind of a factor that may play into that. That's kind of a bit of a side note, but so you're not going to compete against yourself, but your question is like, how do you make sure you share the love, right? Like if you have all these products. So what I would say is that you only like, there's only so many potential spots on that search page, right? And then also if you listen, to the guys at Simple Modern, they put out some really good content on LinkedIn. One of the things that they've noticed is Amazon, even if you have a really strong brand and really strong performance, will only allow you to dominate so much of a search page, right? So they don't want you, even if you go like search Nike, like you'll still see Nike shoes up at the top, but you see other brands showing up. They really don't want one singular brand to be able to completely 100% dominate a search page, which I mean, like, is kind of a good thing. If you only have one product, it'll kind of be maybe a hindrance if you have, you know, say 20 products in the same niche or something. Amazon's not really going to let all of those rank. But the question is, like, how do you make sure you get your fair share of visibility, especially on top keywords? My recommendation is going to be optimizing based on each product's performance. And so not every product is going to perform the same. Not every product is going to have the same sales velocity. So not every product is going to have the same ranking potential. And as much as you want every single product to be able to get pedal to the metal, that's not really going to be a realistic thing. So two things I would do here. One is I would just, you know, kind of test pushing each of them, see which ones perform the best, see which ones are the easiest to gain ranking, to gain market share on, and more importantly, sustain those at a profitable level. And at some point, your products are just going to kind of reach some sort of equilibrium between all of them. And you'll kind of see, you know, the top dogs start to shake out. You probably have a good idea of what those are now. And I would say be careful of trying to invest too much in products where they just aren't able to sustain the sales that you would want. So for example, there's a lot of times where brands will go into their catalog and be like, this product is struggling. I really need to be able to push this particular product line, right? And so they'll push on a product line that is struggling, and then they'll end up just getting really unprofitable because that product just really isn't a strong seller. So I would say when evaluating the catalog, I would make sure that you're not trying to push things that don't show really good conversion rates is what I would be checking for. I'd be checking for sales, and I would also be checking for conversion rates. The other thing is, it depends on the market on how much search volume is there, but I would also, so the one prong approach is just, again, go after top keywords, kind of reach an equilibrium. But the second thing that you could do is really start to look deeply into the keywords and see, okay, so this product fits here in the market in terms of top keywords, like they share top keywords, but it also could go after this subsection of the market. So maybe it's the mini version of something. Maybe it's the one that's pink or blue. Maybe it's a color variation. Maybe it's a style variation. One of them appears more to like female male audiences. And you might start to find keyword sets that are around sort of those other subsections of the market. And then I would make sure to intentionally build out campaigns to sort of attack those markets as well. That's going to be really helpful for you to not only take a piece of the larger market, but then start branching out into sort of other pieces of the market. How much search volume is going to be for, you know, kind of those adjacent markets, that will be determined based on the shopper searches. So you'll just have to see. But Jared, hopefully that answered your question. If you have any follow-up questions, again, I appreciate you sticking with me through the technical difficulties. So feel free to ask a follow-up questions. This is a great question. So I gotta keep my voice up. How do you guys manage bids? When to reduce, when to increase? In the case of a keyword was working, but it's not working now, shall we reduce the bid in the main keyword if it's not profitable? What is the average tacos for a supplement brand? Again, a lot of questions in one, so I'll try and get to all of them. If you want a snapshot into the ideas behind our internal bid algorithm, we have a video on our YouTube channel. I think I call it like internal training. Basically, like I actually showed it to one of my account managers as like an overall. Now it's not a nuts and bolts like change this bid by 20, X% or anything like that. However, it gives a really good overview into how we balance this type of scenario that you're talking about. So for example, like if you reduce bids too much, then you lose visibility and then you start to lose out on sales and you might lose market share. But if you don't reduce the bids, then you're going to be wildly unprofitable. So sometimes you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it kind of seems sometimes if you blanket apply one approach to all of your bid adjustments, like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and you're left trying to figure out why. We actually have a very strategic approach. So for anything that has a high impact on the sales velocity for our product, we will be very careful with how we adjust those bids. For anything that has little to no impact on sales velocity for a product, we will probably rapidly adjust those bids. And that's how we kind of balance that need to get sales, but also need to be profitable scenario. So in the case of a keyword is working, but it's not working now, my question would be, what is the match type? And if it's not an exact match, I would want to know what search terms used to be performing and which ones don't perform right now. So I would check into the search terms. If it's an exact match, it really depends. I would also check to see if everything in the account with that particular product is starting to not work, or if it's only isolated to that one keyword. That would be my question. And then should you reduce the bids or not? Sometimes you hold out because you know something used to be a past performer, but I would say you don't want to hold out so long that you just keep wasting money. And then what is the average total A cost for a supplement brand? Wildly varies. Potentially somewhere around 15 or 20% would probably be about average. That's a super ballpark average idea. Some people are running a lot lower. There are some people running higher because they're favoring the subscribe and save. So repeat purchases also can be helpful. So some people are a little bit more focused on that metric. All right. Hey, Elizabeth. Let me pull this up. Hey, Elizabeth. Hope you're fine. Yes, I'm doing fine, except for her random technical difficulties just recently, but I'm glad to be here. Could you please tell me why the good running campaigns only showed bad performance? What type of reasons could be behind it? All the things are the same as before on the forefront. Yes. So I actually have a method. This is like my favorite method. We have a software now that we use that's you can compare date ranges on. And so we will now use the software. What you want to do is you want to find the point of change in the account. At what point did things start to go to crap? And you'll probably find it at somewhere. So you go, okay, point of change, right? And then you'll look at how much time you have since that point of change. If it's 2 days, 3 days, if it's been a week, you want to identify what that is. And then you want to identify, okay, what's the same date range before things went to crap, right? So you're comparing what was going on when things were working, what was going on when things are not working. You want to open 2 pages in your browser for Campaign Manager, because I'm telling you how to do this manually instead of doing it with the software. And you want to sort, I like looking at sales and I like looking at spend. So I'm looking again, both date ranges before and after the point of change. And then I'm saying what campaigns were spending the best and what campaigns were not working. It sounds like you already figured out the campaigns. So then I take it a step deeper. So when I'm doing the overall account analysis, I'm like, something went to crap. What happened? Right? I'm saying, okay, in which campaigns was there the greatest change? And I'm looking again at spend and sales in what was working before, because I want to figure out what those greater impact things are doing now. So if you've already identified the campaign, then you're going to go into that campaign and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to say point of change before, after, and then I'm looking at the products in there. Now, if you have only one product, then maybe you're not doing this. If you have more than one ad group, you're looking at which ad group. So what I'm doing is I'm filtering down, and my goal is to get to a search term level to say what is happening, again, before and after points of change. I have used this method to figure out, there was like one singular search term that stopped working, and I was able to add one negative keyword and correct the ACoS for the entire account. We've identified products that have lost the buy box, and so there's issues there. We've identified a negative keyword that was added into a campaign, and so it blocked a performing search term, and it caused regularities there. So again, what you're doing is you're looking macro, which is the entire account level, before and afters, zoom into the campaign, then zoom into the ad group, then zoom into the products, zoom into the targets, and then zoom into the search terms. And that process will help you figure out the specific reason and why things change. And then when you kind of have an idea, I would also use the history tab to see what changes you've made that potentially could have impacted the account performance. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, so it looks like this is a duplicate. Mike has a good question here. With Black Friday, Cyber Monday order, would you recommend how to set your bids back to where they were before on the weekend? Should we revert back to what they were before I made the changes the past 30 days? It doesn't include the weekend. I would just go off of what the current performance is for the ads. If you have increased stuff and it's continuously working, like you're getting good results from it, I don't see any reason to screw with it. If you are having some issues with like ACoS not being good, total ACoS is on the rise, then I would potentially look at reverting specific things. But it depends on the product and the market that you're in. But oftentimes what happens is Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's different from Prime Day in that it often launches us or does launch us into Q4 when conversion rates are high. So we still should be in a good conversion rate season. However, if with like say Prime days, conversion rates go up and then right afterwards they go back to normal. This time of year, they don't always go down and back to normal. So that means we don't always have to immediately correct and turn it down. So I would say you should be good as long as nothing's going to crap and performance is okay. You should be good just to optimize based off of the current performance is what I would say. So yeah, Newman says, thank you for a detailed response. Yes, I appreciate the question. And yeah, I hope that was helpful. That's kind of a method we use again, kind of to analyze the campaigns. And we found it very, very useful for all kinds of things, really. Cool. I think looks like... Cool. That looks like a duplicate question. So yeah, if anyone else has any Amazon ad questions, again, feel free to type them in the chat. I'm going to be here providing I don't have any conflicts or I don't have any, it's not on a holiday like with Thanksgiving. I should be here same time, same place every Thursday. Pretty much ongoing until I burn out. And also these Q&As are going to be up on our YouTube channel as a recording. So you are more than welcome to go and even review past Q&A segments if that would be helpful. Cool. I'm trying to think what other, if someone dropped an ad question before we had that freezing issue, I might not be able to get to it. So if you're listening and you dropped a question and I wasn't able to get to it, make sure that you can redrop it in the chat. Trying to see if we have anything else on the socials. I think we're good. A couple updates. So for those of you who missed kind of like that intro portion, Amazon now has, you can save filters inside of the targeting tab. Pretty awesome. Pretty stoked for that update. I think a lot of us are using the targeting tab to filter for specific things pretty much ongoing. So that will be like a really, really great way to be able to like one click, apply multi-filter and be able to check things. It's going to speed up the workflow. We still use targeting tab, even though we have a lot of software that we leverage or internal systems that we're leveraging, like targeting tab, is still pretty awesome. I'm still loving it, still using it. And so that definitely is a cool thing. Other interesting updates have been to Amazon's sponsored brand ads, which I think there was a question earlier about sponsored brand ads. Let me see if I can find it. Hopefully it didn't glitch out. Oh, here we go. Cool. Cool. Text says best strategy for brand ads, in which match type is performing best, exact, phrase, or broad in brand ads. So what strategy is performing best? Like, we always had favored exact match. However, exact match these days, they've been some updates to their match types, and exact match no longer functions exactly the way that it used to. So with exact match, right, you would pretty much pull the exact search terms. It could trigger plurals, but for the most part, it was like those specific searches. Now, exact match, specifically in sponsored brand ads, not in the other ad types, will also trigger what's called related searches. The example I always give is like if you're bidding on the keyword in exact match, again, specifically sponsored brands, running shoe, you could show up for the search term sneakers. Are those related? Kind of. But we might not be interested in getting really aggressive on the search term sneaker. That kind of leaves us between a rock and a hard place, because exact match was really the one thing that allowed us to aggressively go after a specific search page. But now that's no longer working. Phrase match could kind of be okay, but again, it's going to trigger a whole bunch of different searches that add, additional words into them. So which one is best? I don't know if there is a best one. I would just say make sure that you are really leaning into your bid adjustments and really watching those search terms and adding negative keywords, even to exact match these days. Negative keywords are going to be relevant, again, only for sponsored brand ads, but that's been an update recently. That kind of goes a wrench in things. As far as best strategy for brand ads, unless we're getting super aggressive with the specific search pages we're going after, we typically run these for profitability. We haven't observed as much impact on ranking for sponsored brand ads as we have for, say, sponsored product ads. So we don't like to run these unprofitably if at all possible. They are the only way that you can really push traffic to a store page, though. So that is helpful. So for example, if you wanted to showcase your line, maybe you have a bunch of women's running sneakers, right? But you have a whole bunch of different styles and they're scattered across a bunch of different listings. Well, maybe if you use, you leverage sponsored brand ads to then push to a store page and you have a sub page with all of your women's running shoes, then that could be really beneficial to like showcase your entire brand. So that's in a lot of ways where you use it is like strategic traffic focused on groupings for a brand can be very, very helpful if you have a larger catalog. Other things that are good practice is simply looking at your search term reports for your sponsored product ads, what's working, what can then be realistically carried over into my sponsored brand ads. It's a good rule of thumb. Other things is aligning your creatives, aligning your headlines with your searches you're going after. And the one thing update I was going to mention is Amazon now allows you to leverage AI to create lifestyle images, which can be useful. And you those of you might enjoy that update. It's a little bit funky sometimes when we go to create the images. You're like, that doesn't look that great. So it's not a bad idea to. It's better if you have really good custom images, but for the brands that don't have good custom images and potentially say getting up holiday images, maybe leveraging that AI is helpful. And as with everything in AI, the better your prompt, the better your image is going to be. The crappier your prompt, the kind of crappier your image is going to be. So I would keep that in mind. But no, I appreciate the question on the sponsored brand ads. And we got probably good at 25 minutes left of Q&A time. So if anyone else has any Amazon ad questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And we'll go from there. If we don't get any more ad questions, then we might end up leaving the stream early. So it is up to you. But again, as always, this is going to be recorded on our YouTube channel. So feel free to reference that. And again, we're going to be here 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Thursday. So you can make sure to save up those Amazon ad questions and get them answered on Thursdays, which would be awesome. Probably for those of you watching, it would probably be good to probably accumulate some questions throughout the week. I think we have a form sitting out somewhere for Amazon ad questions. I probably should dig that up and try and start making that public. So, because I know there's some people who aren't able to join the live streams, which I do appreciate. There's always conflicts and there's always stuff to do and it's always hard to get away. But be curious to know, maybe feel free to ping me on LinkedIn or Facebook or leave a comment on the YouTube if that would actually be helpful, or for anyone watching this as a replay. Feel free to chime in if that would be helpful to have a forum to ask the questions, even if you're not live, and get a live answer. Because I find that video answers allow me to give much more nuanced answers than, trying to type out in a chat somewhere. So I prefer this sort of format for Q&A segments. Cool. Well, it just so happens it doesn't look like we have any additional questions. So I think we're going to go ahead and end the stream so I can get back to it. But as always, I appreciate there's some really detailed questions in here. And this has been awesome. So again, feel free to catch the replay of this on the YouTube channel. And I will see you all next Thursday. And thanks.